Hey everyone, how's it going? So if you grew up in the 90s like I did, there was probably one slogan you could not escape from even if you tried, and that's gotta catch 'em all. I mean, it was everywhere. It was on billboards, in magazines, in commercials, and of course, if you watched the Pokemon cartoon, which it seemed like everyone did, you heard it in the opening lyrics and in the closing theme. So, suffice to say, when I got Pokemon Blue, that was exactly what I wanted to do. I was told there were 150 or more to see, and to be a Pokemon Master was my destiny. Well, I did become a Pokemon Master, but unfortunately I could not catch all 150 Pokemon. You see, aside from the difficulty of getting some Pokemon like Chansey, it's actually impossible to catch all 150 Pokemon with one cartridge, unless you resort to a cheating device or glitching. So in today's video, I thought I'd talk about exactly how many Pokemon you can catch with a single cartridge, and what you would need to catch all 150 Pokemon legitimately. Of course, I'm leaving out Mew, the 151st Pokemon, but the lyrics said 150, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Alright, so not 2 minutes into your adventure, already 6 Pokemon are going to become uncatchable, because unlike the anime where Ash can get all 3 starters, in the Pokemon games you have to pick one of the 3, meaning if you pick Squirtle like I did, Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur, Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard, not catchable. Nothing you can do. You can look high and low like I did as a kid, they're nowhere to be found. So right off the bat, that 150 turns into 144, and then some executive at Game Freak probably said, "Hey guys," of course they were talking in Japanese, but I'm just going to say it in English, "You know what's really smart? What if we told people to catch them all, and then we made the same game, released it twice, and all we did was change what Pokemon are in each game? It's genius!" And yes, it is genius. It's super consumer unfriendly, but it is completely genius, and nowadays even third versions have 2 games apparently, but I'll talk about that in another video. So if you picked Pokemon Blue like I did, the Ekans line, the Oddish line, the Mankey line, the Growlithe line, Scyther, and Electabuzz are nowhere to be found. And if you picked Red like my brother did, you couldn't catch Sandshrew, Sandslash, the Vulpix line, Meowth line, Bellsprout line, Magmar, or Pinsir. Since Weepinbell is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, I'm glad I had Blue. But that's 11 Pokemon you can't catch, bringing our total down to 133. And if you thought that was it, I'm sorry, there are 5 more Pokemon you can't get due to choices you have to make. In Mount Moon, after defeating the Super Nerd, you actually have to pick one of the 2 fossils, Dome or Helix. If you pick the Dome fossil like I did, you cannot go back and get the Helix fossil, meaning Omanite and Lord Helix himself, Omastar, are completely unobtainable. Additionally, you do get an Eevee for free in Celadon City, which is cool, but you can only evolve it once, and since there is no way to breed additional Eevees, the other 2 Eeveelutions, let's say Vaporeon and Jolteon, also unobtainable. And finally, in the Fighting Dojo in Saffron, you have to pick one of the Hitmons, and the other one, let's say Hitmonchan, sorry man, can't be registered in my Pokedex. And that brings our total down to 128. But there are 4 more Pokemon that you can't get because they needed to be traded in order to evolve. These Pokemon are Machamp, Golem, Gengar, and Alakazam. And that's it. If you have one game, the most amount of Pokemon you can get without glitching or cheating is 124, or 83% of the total you were shooting for. That's not terrible when we talk about the other games, but it was a big slap in the face to me as a kid. Thankfully, a few years later Pokemon Yellow came out, and it allowed you to get every starter like Ash did. Of course, you still have to pick between the fossils, the evolutions, and the Hitmon, bringing the total down to 145, but we're on a good start. Also, there is an in-game trade where you can actually trade a Cubone for a Machoke in the Underground Path, meaning Machamp is completely obtainable. So that's 1 more Pokemon that you can get that you couldn't in Red and Blue. Pretty cool. Of course, Game Freak had to make up for that, and what they did was they made 1 more unobtainable Pokemon by making it a version exclusive. You can't catch Weedle, Kakuna, or Beedrill in this game, Ekans or Arbok, Meowth or Persian, Koffing or Weezing, Jynx, Electabuzz, and Magmar, and you also cannot evolve the Pikachu you get, which is the only Pikachu you can catch, into a Raichu. Now some of these make sense. Ekans and Arbok, Meowth and Persian, and Koffing and Weezing are all Team Rocket Pokemon. I don't understand Jynx, Electabuzz, and Magmar. I think those are just version exclusive things. And Weedle, I guess because Ash caught a Caterpie. That's maybe also why Pidgeotto is available in Viridian Forest. I don't know, it's just a guess. Raichu makes the most amount of sense because Ash never evolves as Pikachu. But all told, there are 130 catchable in Pokemon Yellow, which is 86%, which is pretty cool. So now, let's say we want to combine a couple games like Game Freak wants us to, and catch all 150. Is it really as easy as just trading between us? Well, no, it depends how far you are into your games. You see, if you just had 2 completed red and blue games, you won't be able to get everything, because you cannot breed Pokemon. So let's say I have a Charizard and he has a Blastoise, well you can give me the Charizard, but that's still 5 starters I can't get. The Bulbasaur line, and Charmander and Charmeleon because you already evolved from them and there's no way to go back a step. Additionally, if they already evolved their Kabuto into Kabutops and me vice versa, that's another Pokemon. So you have to trade them at the perfect time. Even if you do that, the most amount of Pokemon you can get without resetting one of your games is 146. You're still going to be missing 3 of the starters, the ones you 2 didn't pick, and 1 evolution. Now, if you use Yellow, that number actually still stands, 146. Except it's kind of a worse 146, and you'll find out why in just a second. If you picked Yellow and Red, for example, you won't be able to get Meowth, Persian, Magmar, and one of the evolutions, and with Blue, Ekans, Arbok, and Electabuzz will be uncatchable with 1 evolution. However, if you reset, you can get all 150 with Red and Blue, but you can't if one of the games are Yellow, because of the shared version exclusives. You can reset Red and Yellow until the cows come home, you're still not catching a Meowth. But with Red and Blue, you reset enough, you get that extra Eevee, you get that last starter, and you have completed the dream of catching all 150 Pokemon without cheating or glitching. All it took was 2 Game Boys, a link cable, and resetting one of your games. So, a lot of effort. Not to mention some of these Pokemon are impossible to catch, but it is possible. Of course, if you're really against resetting one of your games, you just need to buy Yellow too, and with Red, Blue, and Yellow combined, you can get all 150 Pokemon in one playthrough, assuming you don't evolve the starters and the fossil Pokemon. Now, after I'd finished the research for this part of the video, I was curious, does this get better in Gold and Silver? No. No, it doesn't. And as kind of a bonus, let's go through exactly how much not better it gets. So for this list, I'm going to be starting off with 251, and immediately there are 2 that are completely uncatchable. There were events, but those events are all done, so if you started a Gold or Silver file today, Mew and Celebi, not catchable. So we're down to 249. Additionally, there are 17 Pokemon that are only catchable in Red, Blue, and Yellow, and those are the 9 Kanto starters, the 4 fossils, you actually can get an Aerodactyl by trading Chansey, the 3 legendary birds, and finally Mewtwo. So that's lovely. I haven't even turned on my game yet, and I'm down to 232. Once I have turned on my game, I'll realize that once again you only get 1 starter, so 6 starters are going to be uncatchable, bringing our total down to 226. Now, although Gold and Silver are more different than Red and Blue, they still have those version exclusives because, you know, it makes money. So if you played Gold, the Vulpix line, the Meowth line, the Leddyba line, the Phanpy line, Delibird, and Skarmory, they're not going to be catchable. If you played Silver, the Mankey line, the Growlithe line, the Spinarak line, Gligar, Mantine, and the Teddiursa line, not a thing for you. And finally, if you played Crystal, the Vulpix line, the Mankey line, the Mareep line, which I always forget isn't available in Crystal, Girafarig, one of my favorites of all time, and the Remoraid line. I guess I shouldn't play Crystal, a lot of my favorites are on that list. But yeah, that's 10 more Pokemon, and that brings our total down to 216, or 86.8%, which is similar to the percentages we saw in the total of Gen 1. So, is that it? Are we done? No. So, remember how there were 4 Pokemon you needed to trade in Red and Blue? Well, now there are 10. We still have Alakazam, Gengar, Machamp, and Golem, but now we also have Kingdra, Politoed, Scizor, Steelix, Slowking, and Porygon too. So once we get those out of the way, we're down to 206, or 82%. And then we have what I like to call the stone problem. Remember how easy it was to get a stone back in Red and Blue? You simply went to Celadon Mall and bought them? Yeah, that was completely game-breaking. Please, Game Freak, make this more tedious and obnoxious. I beg of you. Well, good news, faithful listener. There is a way, and that's Bill's grandpa. You see, once you're 75% of the way through the game, you can go to Bill's grandpa, who's located where Bill was back in Gen 1, and he'll ask to see a Pokemon. If you show him the Pokemon he wants to see, he'll give you a stone. One of them. no more. And once you have that stone and use it, it's gone. So because of this terrible, terrible game design choice, you cannot get 3 of Poliwrath, Vaporeon, Starmie, or Cloyster, 2 of Ninetales, Arcanine, or Flareon, 2 of Executor, Victreebel, or Vileplume, and 1 of Raichu or Jolteon. Thankfully, this is not a problem in Crystal because you can just re-challenge people and they'll possibly give you a stone. I wouldn't hold your breath, but technically you can get unlimited stones through this method, but in Gold and Silver, our grand total comes down to 198 or 79.2% of the total Pokemon we thought we could catch. That's a B+ at best. So let's combine games like we did back in Generation 1. Can you get all 250? Not even close. If you were to just get a cartridge of Gold and a cartridge of Silver and trade between them, you'd be able to get, without resetting, 225 Pokemon. Why? Because they're the 19 Pokemon that are exclusive to Gen 1, plus there's still 3 starters you can't get without resetting, 2 Water Stones, 1 Fire Stone, and 1 Leaf Stone. So you're going to need to reset 2 times to bring that total up to 232, and you're going to have to play through the game a fair bit to get those stones. So yeah, good luck with that. Now, if you were to sub out one of the games for Crystal, let's say Silver, you would get your total up to 227 without resetting, so 2 higher. The reason for this is that you don't have to worry about all that stone nonsense. However, to make up for that, you do have to worry about a shared version exclusive. In Gold's case, it would be Vulpix and Ninetales. With resetting, you would actually have a lower total of 230, so I guess it's a pick your poison. Now, you might be thinking, oh, you can get all 250 if you use, let's say, Gold and Blue. Well, close, but not quite. Without resetting, we've got our total up to the highest number so far, 229, which is actually almost as high as Gold and Crystal with resetting. But the problem comes down to starters. There are 12 starters you cannot get until you reset. 6 from Kanto and 6 from Johto. Additionally, the 2 fossils from Kanto you can't get without resetting your blue, and there are 6 Pokemon that you can't get whatsoever because they are Johto Pokemon exclusive to the other version. Now, you might be wondering, hey, what about those Pokemon that you need to trade while holding an item? That won't work with Blue. Actually, it will. All you need to do is, let's say, have your Porygon hold an upgrade, trade it to Blue, and then trade it back. It'll become a Porygon too. All that being said, if you reset enough times, you can get that number up to 243. Oh, so close to 251, but still not quite there yet. Now, if you really don't want to reset as much, you can do something like Silver and Yellow. If you use those 2 games, your non-reset total is up to 235, because you need to worry about the 6 exclusives to Gold, the 2 fossils from Kanto, and the 6 starters from Johto. With a couple resets, you can get that total up to 243, which is the exact same as if you use Gold and Blue. Now, if you wanted to use, let's say, Gold, Silver, and Yellow, so now we're using 3 games, we can get that non-reset total up to 244. We're going to need to reset for 3 of the starters from Johto and the other fossil from Yellow, and if we do that, we get the total up to 249, which is as high as it's going to go. And if you're really against resetting, you're going to have to use Gold, Silver, Crystal, Yellow, and Red or Blue, and then you will get the non-reset total of 249 Pokemon. That is a lot of games, but that is what you would need to do it without resetting, and still, you would not be able to get all 251. I think the moral of the story is that even though the GTS can be annoying at times, we should be so grateful that we no longer have to buy 5 games if we don't want to reset our game and get all the Pokemon that are catchable. And on that note, I think that's all for this video. Maybe I'll do another video in the future where I focus on Gen 3 and beyond, but those are going to take a much longer time to explain because we have the regional decks and the national decks, and there's a whole bunch of other things at play. So another time for those. As for me, thank you guys so very much. I just hit 10K subscribers. I didn't want to bore people in the beginning with some sort of long thank you, but I really do appreciate it. I know a lot of people say this on YouTube, but if you'd asked me 6 months ago if I would have even 100 subscribers, I would have laughed at you. So the fact I have 10,000 of them, honestly, it's really humbling. I thank you guys so much. I hopefully will be able to produce content you guys enjoy for a while longer. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. Take care.